Hello there, welcome to Genesis Models. My name is Bobby Waldron and welcome to another tutorial video. In this tutorial video we have a little Tempest here and we have that dreaded problem of having something inside the canopy, a smear, some bits or something like that that's inside the canopy, and so we then have to pop the canopy off. So let's take a look on how we get this canopy off and get it all nice and sorted. Right then, so here's our Tempest. We've nicely put a nice flat matte coat on this, and you know, after we've done something like this, we'd come along and we would start removing our canopy masks. But the problem we've got is, if we look at this one in particular, I might have to get you in close. We've found a problem where there's some sort of a smear or something. You can probably just see those little smears on the canopy, and that looks like it is actually inside. So we need to remove the canopy and clean the inside, which is a bit of a pain, but I'm going to show you how to do it because it does sometimes happen. But just as a quick sort of tip, just to check, I like to sort of get a cotton wool bud. We can just dip it into a little bit of water. Right, and what we do is, after removing, and just being careful, after removing, what we do is, you might have some sort of smears on here, but it could actually be on the outside surface. Right, so always kind of just have a go at cleaning. I mean, even if you don't see any smears, I always kind of give it a bit of a clean anyway. Right, because there could be something on the outside surface, and as you can see, you know, there is a bit on there. It's probably like a little bit of wash that's kind of got underneath, so it's easily removed. If it seems to be a little bit stubborn, I like to come out with good old homebrew thinners. Right, it's good for cleaning, and what we can do is pour a little bit onto our cotton wool bud, right, and we can then also have another go at it, right, and see if we can get rid of any of these nasty smears that we seem to be having. Now, when using the thinners on a canopy, right, it is very sort of crucial that you don't do it if you dip your canopies. Some of you guys, you like to sort of dip your canopies inside into like Gauzy agents and stuff, and glosses and whatnot. Using something like thinners to clean up your canopy is going to sort of rehydrate those Gauzy agents and glosses that you use, so don't do it, basically, which is probably one of the reasons why I don't like dipping my canopies, because I do like to, after removing the canopy masks, cleaning them up. Right, and after doing this, right, with the thinners, right, any kind of dirt or even paint on the surface of this canopy will be removed. So if you are still seeing some smears, which you can just nicely pick that up on camera now, you can see those smears inside there, those are obviously inside the canopy. So now we need to go to the dreaded next step, which is to remove the canopy. Now this is, hopefully you're not going to learn the lesson the hard way, but this is the whole reason, if I just get one out, the whole reason why we glue our canopies in with products like Micro Crystal Clear. It's basically it's like a PVA glue. When it dries crystal clear, so if it does potentially kind of smear onto the glassy parts, it can look crystal clear anyway, so it helps with those mistakes. But also, if you ever are in the dreaded situation I am in and you have to pop the canopy off, it's easier to pop the canopy off. Now, you can have things like Tamiyax thin cement, these kind of glues. If you glued your canopy down like that, because the glue basically dissolves, melts, whatever you want to call it, the two pieces of plastic, it brings them together and makes them virtually one. So actually popping a canopy off is going to probably not work. You're probably going to end up having to buy a new canopy. I've done it in the past and I've managed to somehow save the canopy, but you're going to have major problems if you've glued it in with like Tamiyax thin or something like that. But using Micro Crystal Clear, because it doesn't dissolve the two plastics and brings them together, it is more of a sort of a bond, right? So you can get a clean break, right? And it's, shall we say, it's not as strong a glue as, say, something like Tamiya's thin cement. So you know, it is kind of crucial that you don't make the mistake of not using micro crystal clear. I've used micro crystal clear, so hopefully this should pop off, you know. So, you know, I say relatively easily, but I know it can potentially still be a nightmare. So a few procedures to follow with this. First off, right, we don't want any paint peeling, right? Because what we've also got to remember is when we pop this canopy off, the paint has been sprayed on, right? And what's going to happen is, because the paint's been sprayed on, when we pop the canopy off, we could potentially peel some of the paint. So what we're going to do, we're going to get a blade and just very carefully score the paint, so that when we pop the canopy off, at least the paint is separate, shall we say. So when we pop it, it's going to be a nice clean kind of break, shall we say, of the paint, rather than, because the paint's kind of one, it won't peel and you end up seeing like nasty bare plastic. So to do this, just nice and simply, nice clean new blade, and we're just very lightly going to follow around the edge of this canopy, very lightly. We're just hardly sort of touching it. We don't want to be putting enough pressure that we're going to be cutting into plastic. We only want to be applying enough pressure that we actually just very lightly score the paintwork right around the edge, and just do that all the way around. So I've cut that all the way around, so I know when I pop this off, the paint should have a nice clean break and not start peeling the paintwork off of the surface. Now this is the tricky part, and you know, as much as we might have used micro crystal clear and all these kind of things, this could still be a ruined canopy and end up being a lot of work, maybe even going off and having to buy another brand new kit to get your hands on another canopy and to put a new canopy on there. So really take this stage very carefully and delicately, and what we want to do, right, is find points. I'm trying to hold the model without breaking any antennas, but finding points where we can just start to try and dig our blade underneath the canopy. If you don't feel it's going to go, right, try a different point. And all we're trying to do is just sort of try and dig that under, light pressure, and try and give it a bit of a lift. Now I'm feeling that's lifting a little bit there. Don't kind of feel like, yes, it's lifting, and just keep going and keep going. We want to just, you know, try as many points as we want. We want to just slowly sort of pull it up little by little, as many different points as possible. Just a light dig in and then a push up, right, and just take it really carefully. The more points in where you just push it up that little bit and a little bit more, that hopefully once you've worked all the way around, it will pop off nicely. Right, so it is so crucial to be so careful, not get ahead of yourself, and just keep just lightly, just dig it in at good points, nice and lightly, give it some push-ups, and just work your way around. And eventually what should happen, fingers crossed, you know, there's no guarantees in this, I mean this is potentially a big mistake, that eventually, hopefully, it's just gonna pop off. I am feeling, I don't know if you could see that, it is feeling like it's starting to come up a little bit, and it yeah, it's not sort of slowly starting. I can see it's really sort of nicely, I don't know where you can see it, I can just see that popping up a little bit, but I'm not going to kind of take advantage of that and go in that one spot and really try and pry it in that spot. You know, just work your way around, even if you have to kind of go around and around the canopy a couple of times, just lightly prying it, you know, do that, because as I say, fingers crossed, eventually it will then pop off. So I'm just going to keep prying it until I see that it's going to really start to come off, and I'll get back to you. So I've just now pried it, and then this side just nicely had a little bit of a pop up, right, like that. As you can see, that's really sort of nicely starting to pop up, right. Now I know it's probably tempting, I could probably grab this now and just pull it off, and it will come off now because that's what it feels like, but don't take the chance to still lightly work your way around and just make sure that everywhere's coming off nicely, right, because this is still glued down somewhat, even though it will pop off if you apply enough force now. But it's all about just being careful to make this as clean a break as possible. And this does feel like this is going to go now. Just get this corner, and that should be good. Right, maybe a little bit of a score just there, and there we go. She's popping off, and very carefully, there you go. Now you can see all this stringiness. That is our micro crystal clear, right. So now we've got this off finally, and what we can probably do now is might just sort of see, you could probably see the smear inside there. Let's have a go at cleaning that up now, because that should all nicely clean up, because this is the whole point, we're going to this trouble to get this off, right. And hopefully we focus in, right, that's basically all gone, right, but I'll give that a really good clean later on. So we've solved the problem, but now we've got to fix what we've done. So what we want to do is very carefully, now, because it is just basically like a PVA glue, you can sort of see here, if I get some tweezers out, that this glue can just be pretty much nicely peeled off, and that's what we want to do. We want to clean up around all these edges, and by the looks of it, because we've had such a nice clean and we've taken our time peeling this off, we should hopefully not have to do any sort of fancy paint work or anything like that. We should hopefully be able to just glue this back on with micro crystal clear. I can probably see that maybe we've peeled up a bit of paint sort of here. You can sort of see a bit of green showing through, so kind of just go back to the whole painting a cockpit, paint the black on there, put your weathering back on there, just so as that ain't going to cause any problems when you see in there. Check your canopy for any damage, and you don't want to see any of that. But basically, if you maybe the paint did peel, right, it's potentially going off and sort of spraying certain areas and kind of going back over your steps. But in theory, using micro crystal clear, it should pop up fairly easily, fairly cleanly. By using a blade and scoring the paint, right, you should stop any peeling happening, and you should have a clean removal of your canopy, and you can clean everything all up, re-glue it, maybe a touch of paint here and there, and you should be all good. So hopefully that has helped you basically know how to sort of remove a canopy, and hopefully understand why you really do want to be using micro crystal clear when applying your canopies.